Welcome to Cutting Through the Bullshit podcast with Brittany and Betsy. All right, welcome back, beautypreneurs. Let's get into it. Today, we're going to be talking about tipping. This is a big one. We all rely on tips, and I'm excited to get into it. Betsy, take it away.
Thanks, Britt. So when it comes to tipping, obviously it sucks, right? When you pour your heart, your soul, your energy, your blood and tears into the service and your guest leaves without tipping you.
It's a blow.
It really is. But guess what? These feelings that you're feeling, the mentality, it's not serving you. It's not serving us. The fact is that tipping is an option. It's never mandatory. And a lot of us forget that being in the service industry.
Yes, I see it all the time.
And what a lot of people may not know is what tip actually stands for. And that is to ensure proper service. But what does that mean, to ensure proper service? You know, there's a reason that your guests feel comfortable to not follow our tradition of tipping, right?
And I think that's like the takeaway. Instead of focusing on why didn't I get tipped, it's really about us. What could we have done better to make them uncomfortable walking away not tipping us?
Right. So then rather than being on the defensive or calling your guests names, which we've all heard in the back room, all that chatter of, oh, this guest is crazy, or oh, she's this and that, and she left without tipping me. Why don't we focus on what we can actually control, which is at our next service, right? We have to go through what we did during our current service that left our guests feeling compelled to being okay with not tipping.
Louder for the people in the back right now, because this back room chatter has got to go.
Yes, it is such a disservice to all of us to have that negativity flowing.
Yes, such a waste of time.
Agreed. So our job is to identify what we can actually control and look at ourselves in the mirror and figure out what we need to do to provide a better service for them.
Yes, absolutely.
So instead of playing the blame game, which is what most of us tend to do in that backroom chatter, is holding yourself accountable for what you did during the service or what you didn't do during the service.
Yeah, and taking the time to really reflect before we get into some of those names, right? Like, they're cheap, they're in a rush, they don't have the money, they always complain about pricing.
Right.
They didn't tip me the last time when I waved their hair for free. How can they not tip? We're in a pandemic right now.
Oh my God, I've heard that one so much.
So much.
That one's a big one right now.
It is. And all of these things, they're about blaming the client, making up a story, right, Bets? Like making up a storyline that makes us feel better about why they didn't tip us.
Right. It's only gonna be more detrimental to you and your business behind the chair.
And it's not helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, imagine every time somebody didn't tip us, if this is how we're thinking, we're not leaving any room for improvement. Maybe there's some people who really just, like, at their core of them, they don't tip.
Yes, that's so true. So stylists out there, here are some of the reasons why us as stylists may not get tipped. You've done the job well, right? You went through everything, but it stopped there, right? You're just doing the job.
Yeah.
You're not catering and nourishing the relationship between you and your guest, which is super important.
If I want to work really hard for that tip, hopefully they will tip me next time. It's going to make me a better stylist, whether they decide to do that or not. That practice and that mentality, it's going to shine through in all of my other services.
Absolutely. And without checking in on them if they're sitting for an extended period of time, without seeing, oh, would you like anything? Do you need anything from me? Whatever the case may be, if you're not checking up on them, why should they care?
I see this a lot. Like, connection is so much deeper than just doing the haircut or doing the balayage and then going to the back room and hanging out on your phone.
Exactly. Exactly. So other reasons that we may not be getting tipped at the end of a service could include service standards not being hit or met, guest expectations were not well managed or executed. An environmental factor is a huge one. What does the space feel and look like? Is it inviting? Is it warm? Are there good vibes in there? How are the other stylists or people in there? How are they acting? What are they talking about?
It's like when you're not present with them in these moments, they feel the disconnection, like it's giving them a reason to kind of sever from you.
Exactly. It should be an entire package. Everything from like the moment they walk in the door to the moment that they walk out of the door.
Yeah. Like, is the environment supporting the whole experience?
Exactly. So just rerunning through that in your mind and going through play by play and being like, okay, well, this is where I felt short this time. Next time I'll do this, and this, so I don't lack in that area.
Agreed. Was it a 10 out of 10? And just kind of reflecting on, where did I miss the mark? Where didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. And at the very least, the easiest thing I think we can all always kind of like reflect back on is like, how was our mood? How was our vibe? How was my attitude? Was I even present? It doesn't need to be even physically. Like, maybe I'm a stylist who's double booked. If I am double booked, I really need to make sure that like I'm making eye contact with my client when I'm across the room, or I come tap them on the shoulder and I just say like, hey girl, you doing okay? You have 10 more minutes before our assistant comes and washes you out. The check-ins, like you were saying before, Betsy, I think are so crucial, where, you know, it's not like the Brittany show or it's not the Betsy show, right? It's about our client and only them. They should never know how we're feeling throughout like our performance.
And didn't you mention something like that in one of our phone calls recently, that you had a client who didn't tip you and you kind of retraced your steps and you figured out why?
Yes. So for the most part, like my clients take very good care of me, and a lot of my clients have been with me for many years and I'm very grateful for them, and they know what they're getting with me. This one particular client, she's a client who used to tip me often, and I think she's realized that over the years I have gotten busier and busier, and I am keeping up with, you know, my service standards, the work that I'm delivering on. But at the end of the day, I think there are going to be tough decisions that you as a business owner behind the chair have to make, where the type of service you're giving is either going to attract newer clients, or some of the old ones might not feel like they fit into your business model anymore. And that's a decision that you're going to have to make when the time calls for it. In this instance, I started wondering because I was reflecting, and, you know, she used to take such great care of me. And I said, like, maybe it's because I'm not blowing her out anymore. Maybe it's because she's being passed off to my assistant, who does an amazing job on all of my guests. Maybe she's that client that really wants the connection to only be with me like she had prior.
Right.
I wanted to test this theory, right? You know, something is off. So I said, okay, I need to figure out why if I want to keep her as my client. And I'm in a position now in my career where I pick and choose my clients.
Amazing.
Right. You know, the first time she didn't tip me, I am getting her in on my day off for all I care the next time, so I can give her every single ounce of me. And I think, you guys, it does change. My clients now, they care more about getting quality work and the timing that they're in the salon, where before they would have hung out with me all day. I've shed a lot of those guests, and it's okay for those things to change. But this client in particular, I did want to keep because I really love her.
Okay.
So I booked her in on an early morning, and I made certain that I was going to be able to tone her myself and blow dry her myself. We checked out and I was like, all right, testing my theory. And she actually did tip me.
There you go. So it was that individualized attention from you that she was seeking.
Correct. And she did mention to me when she was checking out how, you know, thankful she was that I styled her the way she loves. Did it look the same to me as it did with my assistant? The truth is, yes, it did. I've trained my assistant to mimic exactly how I do hair. And that's just like the service standard we have set across the board. It shouldn't matter what assistant you are. If you're working with me, we're producing the same work.
Right.
But she was longing for that connection and feeling cared for like she had with me prior. So my decision now is I am am very busy. I am very booked. And if it becomes something where it's taking away from my other guests that are booked out with me and double and triple booked all day while I do utilize my assistant throughout those days, then I'm probably going to refer her to somebody else. But for now, I do want to keep her in my schedule. I really enjoy her company. I love that she breaks up my day a little bit in the mornings. I'm going to keep her.
That's great. It brings a lot of value to what you wanted to give her in her appointment.
Yeah, and we have to take the time to test out and analyze, like, what could I have done better? I'm going to try it with my next guest or my next service. If you're a stylist that, you know, notices like a habitual non-tipping thing, all of those things, like your fandom, if you have a lot of fans that aren't rooting for you, it's definitely time to step back and observe, okay, I need to level up. I need to step it up. What are the things that I really need to hone in on and make sure that I'm executing in my next service with my next guest? Test it out, you know?
And it may not work. It might, or it might not. And then at that point, you just kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out another plan.
Correct. You know, Betsy, what you were saying earlier, though, is like all those reasons why a lot of people don't get tipped. You know, we're talking about like the average client, right? You guys, we're always going to have that one person, like needle in the haystack, where like they maybe just don't tip.
Right. But that doesn't mean that you should lessen the value of their service because of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It means you should work even harder just to prove to yourself that you're capable of really giving more.
Yes.
And the more you follow that through with every client you meet, you're going to be in a position similar to where me and Betsy are, where you are picking and choosing who you want to see.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brittany, for sharing that story. I think you'll bring a lot of great insight to what people may not have realized that they can change in their service.
Yeah. Don't allow these things in our career to happen to us. We need to really do everything in our power to make sure that we're trying our best to improve, or like we want to be in control of our books. We want to be in control of our careers. It doesn't just happen to us. And I think that's the difference between a really successful stylist and a stylist who's getting by and not fully immersed in, you know, their career, or if they're really not that happy.
Yeah, I totally agree. So shifting thoughts a little bit. So going from a stylist to assistants, you know, assistants are essentially like the backbone of the salon.
For sure.
Yeah. You know, so there are some reasons why assistants may not be getting tipped. You know, assistants out there, like you guys may be wondering, like, I gave her a great shampoo or I gave her a great massage. Like, why aren't I getting tipped?
Or my favorite one is, but I did most of the work.
Yes, that's a big one. And you know what, Brittany, as the young assistant first starting out, I had the same mindset because I did not know.
I did as well.
So assistants, we have been there. We've been in your shoes. Some of the reasons why you may not have gotten tipped is you haven't developed or strengthened your servant mentality.
Absolutely.
As an assistant, you're deciding that your career is going to be serving others, whether that's the stylist that you're working alongside or eventually leading up to the guests that you're working on.
Like, number one learning lesson out of Cosmo School: we are in service to others. We've decided this. It's not about us.
Yep. So assistants, ask yourself, what does being in service to others really mean to you? You know, when you're working with a stylist, it means leading with the intention that you and the stylist are one entity.
Absolutely. Your team.
Right? Like you're an extension of their hands. You're on the same team and you shouldn't try to overpower that because you're learning from them. They're your mentors.
Completely.
So being on a team, what does that actually mean for you? Like, are you actually learning from them, following their directions, interested in shadowing them and ultimately gaining their experience? Or are you working against them because you don't want to be in their servitude?
Yeah, or because you want to feel right.
Yes. The truth is, you don't know. You guys are coming into this so fresh. You guys don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's intimidating. Like, it's a new career.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to feel really good that that we are doing a great job and that's why we're showing up to work. But I also think the sooner and the easier that we're able to lean into the learning portion of the new job role, the faster we're going to be able to give ourselves to the job role itself. So if being in service to the stylist you're working with, your main mission is like, we're on a team, we're this strong force that needs to make every single guest leave looking a certain way and feeling a certain way. And we're also managing the salon. Are there enough towels? Is the floor looking clean? Do I need to go sweep over there? Does somebody need a drink?
Right.
Did I circle back and check in with Sally on how much time somebody else has on their timer?
It's a tough job.
It's a lot.
Yeah, you're being pulled in so many directions, but asking questions to the stylist, you and your stylist make a game plan for the day. Continue asking questions to not only, help the flow of the room move along, but also so you can continue to learn that knowledge and like learn how to serve when you do end up behind the chair.
Yeah, and somebody you're meant to work with and learn from is never going to expect you to know everything. But the expectation is, right, like that you are open to learning something new, you're open to guidance, you're open to feedback. And I think the attitude that's going to get you fast track to where you want to be, whether it's like being a stylist yourself or like absorbing everything you can, is you have to assume you know nothing unless you've asked or you've been taught.
Right. And no question is silly, even if you think it is. Like it could be the most random little minute thing that you may think is not important. Ask anyway. Ask them, why are they having you do it like this? Let them teach you.
Completely. Assistants, if you're listening, you should know the whys and the ins and outs. Those are great points, Betsy. I mean, assistants, like you're doing the grunt work, right? You're doing the work that everyone is trying to like level up to get out of doing. But the only way is through. If an assistant is not getting tipped, I think, earlier I was saying like, you feel like you're working so hard, like, right? You're like, I don't get it. The stylist is keeping all that money. The owner's keeping all that money, which, by the way, I can assure you, everybody, is not true. When you feel like you're working so hard because you're exerting so much energy into learning a new skill set, you exaggerate things in your mind because you're feeling like, God, I had such a long day. My feet are swollen. My back is hurting me. I did the toner. I did the blowout. I did half of it. I can assure you, you did not do half the work to preserve that relationship to get the client back in, number one. Number two, if you didn't have the guidance from somebody more experienced than you, it may not have worked out well for the client or for you and the stylist. And number three, if you're going to have the attitude of, I did physically half of the work, you're missing the opportunity to advance yourself by focusing on the entitlement of, I deserve to make more money right now.
Yeah, I feel like that's a huge key point.
Yes. One thing that is super important to me, Betsy, is I always know where I stand. And my hope for people, whether you're a stylist, a salon owner, an assistant, is it's so important to know in our industry, what are we not great at and what are we great at? Mm-hmm. And chances are what might be really difficult for somebody might be very, very easy for somebody else where it gets done more efficiently. So I think it's so important that we always separate how we feel about doing something from the actual job itself.
Right.
I can bang out a pretty mean blow dry in about 20 minutes, super polished, no flyaways. For my new assistant I'm training, it may take them an hour.
But with that constant practice, eventually she will get down to that 20 minutes.
Correct. And by the time she's at that 20-minute mark with a perfect blowout and the client super stoked about leaving, she's going to be paid like a stylist because she likely will be on her way to being a stylist.
Right.
So I think that's a great takeaway. And when somebody doesn't tip us, we might not always see it when we're learning the job role, but that's a great opportunity for you to go talk to the stylist or the owner and say like, hey, I noticed that she didn't leave anything for me. Is there somewhere that you think I could have improved?
Yes. Self-reflection and feedback, constructive criticism, all of that are great tools to further your education and your self-knowledge of the job and to propel you forward.
Yeah, completely. Ask all the questions.
All of them.
Be a sponge.
Yep.
And And one of the consequences of that is like assistants, you will see yourselves being tipped more, connecting with the stylist. They're going to have your back. They're going to support you more. You're going to be put in a great light in front of all of their clients. Like you always should be, but it's a little different when a stylist is really mentoring you in front of the client.
Yes.
Rather than just getting the job done. Similar to the stylist who just gets the job done.
Yeah, it all comes full circle.
It does. It truly does.
Mm-hmm.
The best assistants end up being the best stylists.
It's true. You just have to put in the work.
Betsy, we were badass assistants.
We were.
We never said no.
Which led to very long days and very tired feet. But here we are now. You know, it led to many, many great opportunities for the both of us in our different life paths.
Yeah, completely. And me and Betsy we'll do an episode soon, you guys, where we can talk about how we started off together, because me and Betsy actually met years ago as assistants working together. And I think it's why we clicked. Like we took different journeys to get to where we are, right? But whether it's been in our stylist career or assistant days, right? We've never said no. We've always given it our all. We've been super resilient, right, Bets?
Yep. Ain't that the truth?
We've done the grunt work.
Yeah.
We have done the grunt work.
And we still do.
We still do.
Yeah. Especially you as an owner, you get in there with your team and do just as much as they do. It's absolutely amazing to see that you're on the same level.
Oh, thanks, Bats. You have to lead, right? However you are is how your team is going to be. But if you're not in an environment like that, like unfortunately some people, Bets, right?
Yes.
We've also been in those environments. They don't have maybe a great leadership team or a good support system.
Mm-hmm.
These things we're talking about, you guys, of like, yeah, how to get tipped might be something that is obviously important to all of us. But I think the greater lesson in all of this is like, just be open to learning more and trying different things and constantly expanding yourself.
Absolutely. And as a salon owner, do you want to touch a little bit on like how to set standards for your guests when it comes to, tipping?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I know at Palms, we have a few signs. Like I have one at our like community table, and then I also have one at the checkout, like at the computer. And it says like cash gratuity appreciated. Like we don't accept Venmo anymore. If that's something that a salon chooses to do, I would make it aware on signage. But for us, it's cash only. And we also have it on our email confirmations. Gratuity is appreciated, cash only. So on certain salons that I've also worked with, that I've consulted for, depending on their like POS system or like their booking software, there are some options that you can also do when you check out with the credit card where it says tip optional, right? And it'll be like 18%, 20%, 25% other. Those are completely fine in my eyes. I'm not shy about telling somebody there's an ATM next door, it's cash only. And I think that it's okay to say that.
Right.
If you do have a receptionist, obviously training them to support the stylist and making it known that we do accept tips. This is a part of the service. We don't include it in our bill or, in their service. I think that those things are perfectly acceptable unless you do something different, where there are some salons that I know they include the tip into their service already, or they'll add like an automatic 18 or 22%.
Mm-hmm.
Like right into the bill. So it depends on what you guys decide to do with your businesses. But salon owners, I think that we just have to be very clear with our communication. There's a right way to professionally present the information to somebody. And I think you just have to follow through on it. It's a part of the culture and it starts from the top. So there's nothing wrong with encouraging tipping at our salons.
Yeah. I agree.
As I'm saying this, this is the biggest thing. I've gone to nail salons before. I've gone to hair salons before where I've gotten a quick blowout or a haircut. And if I'm seeing signage posted all over the place that it's mandatory to tip, but I have not gotten a great service, it puts a really sour taste in my mouth. So salon owners, with being more vocal or creating awareness of the tipping culture in your salon, we also have to hold our team to very high standards where we're ensuring that proper service. That's what it boils down to, is if you have a rock star team and they're meeting those expectations, it's acceptable for you to say, hey, like we do tip here. Our stylists do receive cash tips or credit card tips, and our stylists or our shampoo assistants, like they do receive tips.
I think that's great. I think that was a great point.
Hold yourself to the standard.
Yeah, that's a great one. Hold yourself to the standards, always. All right, guys. So that has been our spiel about tipping and why you may not have been given one. So, beautypreneurs, we've cut through the bullshit for today. Now get out there, practice your gratitude, set those standards, and let us know if you see a difference in the tips. Leave a comment down below. Let us know.
Let us know.
Thanks, Britt.
Thanks, Bats.
Till next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.